let's talk about some books I don't want to read. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do the anti-TBR tag. It's quite an old one. I think it's been going around for a while, but Chloe from Chloe Reads Books tagged me in it possibly a couple of months ago by the time this goes up. Sorry, Chloe. And I thought it'd be fun, and I've seen a few people do it recently. I think it's like kind of a resurgence. So I thought we would do this tag today. It was originally created by Nicole and her books. As usual, when I'm doing tags, I've got my notes here and I've got my screen up with the questions on it, so that's where I'm looking. Yeah, it was originally created by Nicole and her books, which I will link in the description along with the questions. And it's 8 questions, and it's basically all about books that are not going to make it onto your TBR. So I thought it'd be interesting. Usual disclaimer, I don't generally post negative videos or videos where I talk about negative things in general. That's not deliberate. I just tend to prefer to make kind of positive, upbeat content. But I thought this would be an interesting tag to do. It's got some really good questions. Obviously, if I talk about a book that I don't want to read, that's your favourite book, that's absolutely great and absolutely brilliant. And I feel like this tag is a really good example of how personal reading is, and we all have different tastes and things we like and don't like, things that work for us and don't work for us. So yeah, it's the usual, like, I'm not attacking you if I talk about an author or a book that I didn't enjoy or don't want to read or whatever. Okay, let's get into it. So question number 1, a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. So I have absolutely zero interest in reading A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, or that entire series, that whole world has no interest for me whatsoever. And weirdly, on the day of filming this, I was in Waterstones yesterday and I picked up the first book and read the back, and I was like, should I give in to the hype and read this? Then I read the first couple of pages and I was like, no, this is not for me. For anyone that's unaware, hi, welcome to the Booktunet. This is clearly your first day, because Sarah J Maas and the Court of Thorns and Roses, our ACTA, as it's known, is a huge series here on the Booktunet. It's a YA fairy or fae series, and I think the first book is kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling from what I can pick up, but for me it just does absolutely nothing for me. I feel like if I had come across it like 15 years ago, I probably would have been all over it, but sorry, one of my cats is being very cute in the sunlight over there. But yeah, it does nothing for me. No interest in that book whatsoever, or that series. Okay, number 2, a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. So I've read quite a lot of classics. For anyone that's not aware, I have 2 degrees in English. I did both Englishes, so English literature and English language A level. I'm now an English teacher. So because of my education, I have read quite a lot of classics because the curriculum is quite heavy on classics, particularly here in the UK. So I've read quite a lot of classics. So I've chosen an author that I've actually technically read before, but I have no interest in picking up ever again. And he came up recently in a faculty meeting when we were talking about next year's curriculum, and I was like, please, let's not do this author. And that is Thomas Hardy. And he's a very beloved classic British author, and he bores me to tears. I have read Tess of the D'Urberville. I've read one of his others. Is it Jude? I feel like that's him. And I just find them so very dull and so very just, that kind of like cliche of the male author that can't really write women or women's experiences. I feel like there's so many other people we could be looking at and giving space to rather than Thomas Hardy. So yeah, I have no interest in reading any more Thomas Hardy or teaching it, which I made very clear in the faculty meeting. So yeah, Thomas Hardy, no, just not an author I enjoy. Number 3 is a author whose books you have no interest in reading, and there's also 3.2, a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. And it says in the instructions you can combine questions 3 and 3.2, or you can answer them separately if you have an answer for them both. I'm going to give one answer for this, and that is Colleen Hoover. So I read Verity by Colleen Hoover, which is her kind of thriller book. It was fun at the time. I feel like I gave it like 3 stars. It was a fast read. There are some like spicy bits in it. It was twisty, all of that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry, now Sav is on patrol. If you can hear cat running around in the background. It was fun at the time, But having like stepped back, I was like, wow, there are loads of massive red flags in that story. I feel like the way the relationship is presented is problematic, and then the author herself is also problematic. She's come out and said before that she disagrees with content warnings at the start of books. Like, she actively won't have them in her books because she feels like they're spoilers. I've talked about this before. Content warnings are not spoilers. If you don't need them, just skip over them. It's the same thing like if you have a peanut allergy, you're going to avoid things that have peanuts in. If you don't have a peanut allergy, you're just going to carry on living your life as normal, and it's not going to affect you. But content warnings can really, really help those people that need them. I have one or two very specific to me triggers, and if I know that it's in a book, I can read books about that topic, but if I come across it and I'm not warned, it can be really upsetting. Whereas if I know it's coming, I can kind of mentally prepare myself and decide if I am in a place where I feel like I can read about that thing right now. And if I don't, then I can just back away and leave it. And if I feel like I'm up for it, then I can make that decision. But you have to be informed. So to me, she's very problematic in that way. Also, I feel like I haven't read any of her other books, so let's just be clear about that. Like, I can't speak to the content of the books, but from having heard other people describe them and review them, I feel like there's a lot of problematic relationships within her books. And that's a problem because as someone who works in a school and with young people, there are a lot of young people picking up her books, particularly the romance books, and thinking that those are healthy relationships, and that for me is a big problem. So yeah, I am not going to be picking up any more Colleen Hoover. One, her writing style is just not for me. It felt really sloppy and really lazy, and two, she is problematic herself, and there's also problematic content in her books that I think a lot of people are unaware of. So if you've got a teen in your life who has suddenly become a Colleen Hoover stan, to use the phrase that the kids use, because I know she's huge on TikTok, just be aware of what may be in the content of that book. Wow, that was a bit of a rant. Okay, so yeah, Colleen Hoover, no thank you. I have also talked before about other problematic authors and saying goodbye to certain authors, so I will link, I think I've got 2 videos on the topic, so I will link those in the description if you're interested in my thoughts on the whole kind of problematic author subject. Okay, number 4, an author you've read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. So I'm actually borrowing this from Chloe's answers, although it is definitely very much how I feel about it as well. And that author is Robin Hobb. So I've read the first 2 books in one of the trilogies, which is Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest, a few years ago before I was on Booktube, because Robin Hobb is my best friend's favourite author. And she was like, please read these books, you'll love them. I was bored senseless. And I know there is a massive like Robin Hobb movement online, which is great, and I'm so glad people enjoy them and get so much out of it. Like I said, I was bored senseless. I read the whole of the first book, and then I got about 100 pages into the second book, and I had to say to Steph, I was like, I'm sorry, this just doesn't work for me. I just find it really slow and really dull. But that does feed into a question that we are going to come on to in a second. So the next question is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. So for me, it's high fantasy. So Robin Hobb's books are high fantasy. I can't. If somebody says high fantasy, I'm like, no, thank you. Also sci-fi stuff. Some sci-fi elements I can definitely get on board with, and if it's speculative fiction or dystopian fiction, then that's usually fine. But if it says set in space, I am unlikely to enjoy that book. There are exceptions to every rule, obviously, but for me, high fantasy and sci-fi that's very heavy on the sci-fi, and like I said, set in space, it's probably not going to be for me. Okay, question 6. A book you've bought but will never read. This can be a book you've unhauled, returned to the library, or returned to the library unread. I don't buy books that I don't plan to read. Occasionally I will unhaul books unread if they get sent to me unsolicited by a publisher, or if I get sent a book or buy a book and I read a couple of pages and think, this isn't for me. I am quite happy to step away and DNF, but I would never deliberately buy a book thinking, I'm never going to read this. So yeah, don't really have an answer for that question. Then number 7, so we've got 2 questions left. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you've started and have DNF'd. I don't read loads of series, but when I read series, I'm quite a completionist, so I tend to work my way through and finish them. I can't think of a series that I've DNF'd off the top of my head, but if you guys have been watching my content, and you know, and you can think, oh, Victoria, you didn't finish that series, or you DNF that series, let me know in the description, because I've been sat here thinking about it. I'm like, I can't think of series I've DNF'd. I usually tend to eventually finish them. But a series I'm definitely not interested in reading is the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Again, another like huge TikTok sensation. And I know loads of people enjoy reading them, which is great. If you get something out of it, then brilliant. I just think for me, it's set in space, and I've been told I like a little bit of spice in my books, but there has to be plot as well. And I'm told that this is all spice and no plot. So it's just not going to be for me. So I'm kind of backing away slowly. But however, I do enjoy watching other people's reactions and thoughts on those books because it is really funny. It's just not a series for me. And then question number 8, a new release you have no interest in reading. This isn't the newest of new releases, but I've seen it around quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. So I feel like it's getting a resurgence, and that is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like it's getting a resurgence because Daisy Jones and the Six has just come out on Amazon, and I just have zero interest in this book. The author herself I've kind of stepped away from recently. When I first read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I loved it, gave it 5 stars, reread it last year and I think I dropped it down to 4. I did really enjoy Daisy Jones and the Six. Again, I think I gave that 5 stars, but that was a couple of years ago. And then Jessie from Jessie on YouTube, sorry, put this video out about problematic things in I think it was Evelyn Hugo specifically. It was either Evelyn Hugo or Taylor Jenkins Reid in general, and I will put that video in the description because, as usual, Jessie did far better at being eloquent for a start, being able to talk to a camera, and explained some of the things that are problematic. And it's just, I was kind of like, yeah, now that that's been pointed out, it's actually super obvious. So I've kind of stepped away anyway. And then Carrie Soto is all about tennis, and I know lots of people love tennis. Tennis bores me to tears. So even if I had still been in the Taylor Jenkins Reid like fan club, I feel like I would have picked up Carrie Soto anyway because it's very heavily about tennis. Everyone that I've heard review the book is like, it's like blow by blow accounts of tennis matches, and that sounds like I'd rather like watch paint dry, quite frankly. So yeah, that is not going to be a book for me. Wow, some opinions have come out today. Okay, so I'm now going to tag some people. If you've not watched a tag video from me before, you won't know that what I do is I just go onto my subscription page. I have a look at people who have posted videos recently and I tag them. So I'm going to tag Hannah from Ladder M, Brianna from Four Paws on a Book. Obviously I have no idea if you guys have previously done this video. If you don't feel like doing it, don't do it. If you haven't done it and you think it sounds fun, give it a go. I'm going to tag Becca from Becca and the Books, Charlie from Charlie Brooke Reads, and let's find one more person, and Leanne Rose from Leanne Rose. So I'm tagging you guys. So yeah, like I said, if you feel like doing this tag, please do. If you got to this point in the video, leave me the little person with their arms crossed, like the no emoji, like no thank you. Please subscribe if you'd like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks everyone, bye.